We'd like to get started, gentlemen. Thank you. I appreciate you cutting it short for us. Okay, we have a quorum. I guess we're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we'll go from there. Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Yes, this is Christine, and we need to do a roll call present.
Okay.
Mr. Breen,
Present, in person.
Mr. Treffry,
Present in person.
Mr. Gentile,
Present.
Mr. Henry,
Present.
Mr. Mosier,
Present. Remote.
and Mr. Schlichte.
Present.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I'm going to ask Aaron if you could kind of keep an eye on the two commissioners, and gentlemen, the two that are, in absentia, I guess, remote. If you just speak up and if you want to raise your hand, then we'll try to get you involved as quickly as possible. Is that okay? Okay. The second item is always public comments. We'll go around the room. I know that there's several individuals here. Everyone gets 3 minutes and 3 minutes no more. So if you've got something to say, I know you're going to be making a presentation later. But is there anybody in the public gallery that would like to make a comment at all? Go ahead.
Okay. Ron Roma, Hangar 11, pilot and tenant, leasee, whatever. Just, as you guys, everybody's aware, we had a recent turnover in our FBO. I noticed on the agenda that there's a review of the rules and regs, and the FBO, even prior to this change of control, has been really out of compliance with the rules and regs as far as all the services that they're supposed to offer. And the reason that those were originally put in place way back when Kenny was still here was to, I guess Kenny had a lot of input into why those rules and regs evolved the way they did, and it was really to raise the bar and create a barrier of entry for another FBO. Our fuel prices are a good $2 or $3 higher than most of the other competing places on jet fuel around here, and it's because we're a single FBO operation. And we've made a couple of entities a lot of money by allowing that monopoly to continue. But our current FBO is not in compliance with the rules and regs, and the prior one was not for quite a period of time. I've been a tenant of the airport now for, going on a decade, I think. And I don't know where the airport manager is, but I have not seen an airport manager now for 2.5 years. And I am at 4 other airports that are, one of them is more substantial. It's an international airport in Helena, Montana. One of them is pretty comparable, Zephyr Hills, Florida. One of them is in Canada, pretty comparable. And then, and I've never seen an airport operate with such an absent airport manager as this one has been operating, and that is atrocious. So, as a tenant, that concerns me greatly. As a tenant, it concerns me greatly what we've seen happen with the fuel prices here over the last 3 years. For a long time, John was pretty accommodating because when the original airport management that was here from a commission perspective, they always guaranteed that we would be competitive on fuel prices, and we're not. So that's my biggest gripe.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that.
Yep.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair.
Yes?
Pardon the interruption. In order for this, for us in the audience, hybrid, virtual, we need to have the person that's talking to be present closer to the microphone, which is in the computer. So in other words, if I see an empty seat at the end of the
Yeah, we'll use that as a podium. How's that?
whoever, in podium, that's a good, that's our virtual podium, because I didn't hear a word of what that person said.
Okay.
So whether it's a public comment or a speaker that's assigned to a particular topic, if we can have that podium, it would be very helpful.
For minutes purposes, should we allow Mr. Roma to repeat his public comment?
Like we got a recording. Yeah. Good.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. If there's anybody else, we will put you here and we'll see if there's a sound. I'll do a sound check right now, just bear with me. Madam Clerk, can you hear me? Madam Clerk?
Perfect, Mr. Chair.
Okay. If anybody wants to make a comment, you've got 3 minutes and you can do so from here. We appreciate it. And even in the future, later on in the meeting. I'll take that as a no, so we'll move on to the next. Does someone want me to come on up? State your name.
Yeah, and I won't take the full 3 minutes, I promise.
Okay.
Yeah, my name is Peter Reichley. I'm the CEO and part owner of Flight Level Aviation, the acquiring party of North Atlantic Air. We've been here about 6 weeks now. We're going to be putting out a introduction letter to all of our tenants. That's probably going to go out tomorrow or Thursday at the latest. We've had a lot to get through for the first 6 weeks, but I just wanted to make the formal introduction and just make it known that I'm always available to customers, commissioners, any stakeholders in the airport. We're looking forward to being a partner at the airport with all of you. So happy to be here, and the gentleman who spoke first, I'd be happy to talk to you anytime. I will say, and I'll end it on this, we operate 12 FBOs. I've been in the business for about over 15 years, and what's gone on with fuel gyrations over the past 2 months, I've never seen anything like it in my life. $2 swings from week to week. You can blame it on a whole number of things, but it's an environment, like I said, it's unprecedented. So I'll just leave it at that, and glad to be here and look forward to working with everyone.
I'll just add, and I don't want to speak for myself, but as the vice chair, welcome to the airport. I understand you've only been here 6 weeks. As you can imagine, there are some issues that people want to discuss and put on the table. We're open to those discussions, but welcome, and we're glad you're here, and hope you have a successful run with the airport.
Thank you very much. Yeah, appreciate it.
Anybody else? Okay, well, moving on to the acceptance of the minutes. I assume everybody on the commission has had a chance to take a look at the minutes. Can I get a motion to accept the minutes?
So moved.
Second. Roll call vote. Madam Clerk, you want me to do the roll call? Madam Clerk?
Yes, and Mr. Chair, who made that motion, and who seconded it?
Schlickley and Breen second.
Breen and Breen second, thank you very much. Mr. Breen,
Yes.
Mr. Treasury,
Yes.
Mr. Gentile,
Yes.
Mr. Henry,
Yes.
Mr. Mosher,
Yes.
and Mr. Schlichtag.
Yes.
And the date of those minutes, Mr. Chair, is April, is these the April minutes that you're approving?
It was April 11th.
April 11th, correct. I'll go
Thank
with
you,
you.
Mr. Chair.
That's the date I have for last reading.
Okay, we just need to touch base with the Assistant City Solicitor regarding, the delegating the authority to the Vice Chair to review and approve the executive session meeting minutes.
Yeah,
So how do you want to handle that?
it's just like you did, it's just a motion and a second, and what it would do is if passed, would give the vice chair authority to approve minutes from an executive session,
Okay,
as opposed to the minutes coming before the full board.
okay,
I'll make that motion.
go ahead.
I move that we delegate authority to the vice chair of the commission to review and approve the executive session meeting minutes dated April 19th and April 28th, 2023.
Breen will second.
Who made that motion, please?
Henry.
And who seconded it?
Breen.
And this motion is to delegate authority to the vice chair to review the
Review and approve, and approve.
To review and approve both April 19th and April 22nd. Did I get that right?
Correct.
28,
20,
sorry, 19 and 28.
19 and 28. Just a point of order, Mr. Chair, and I will defer this to Mrs. Bowl-Moxon. I'm not sure that you have the right to approve executive session minutes without a roll call vote.
well, yes, we're waiting for the roll call.
Yeah, we're doing
Call the roll.
Are you approving those minutes right now, or you have to review them?
There was a motion to approve, we'll call the roll.
Okay, so you have already reviewed them, Mr. Chair.
The motion is to grant the vice chair the ability to review and approve.
Okay, and you're giving them that authority right now?
Correct.
Okay, Mr. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Treasurer,
Yes.
Mr. Gentile,
Yes.
Mr. Henry,
Yes.
Mr. Moser,
Yes.
and Mr. Slick.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on, number 5, reading of the financial reports. I'll hand it over to our airport manager.
Hi all.
Hello.
Okay, so the airport financial snapshot, this is the direct from this that was taken in April. The available budget is $25,000. The expenses are at just above $7,000. And then as you can see in the expenses through May 2022, the available balance is $144,300. Any questions on those reports?
No. Unless somebody online has something. Go ahead and continue.
I have one question.
Oh, one question.
I apologize. For meetings and expenses, I'm seeing 5,820 is available out of approximately 10,000, so $4,200 are expensed in meetings. Just what's the current status? What meetings and expenses are being allocated at that rate where people haven't been on site for approximately 6 months? Is there a line item that we can refer to where those expenses are going?
So the budget annually is projected every year. It's an offset, right, to understand what the future projections are. So now that COVID, on the most part, a lot of the conferences in person are happening again. Some are with virtual options. That also does include some chamber meetings and other events that are also related to the airport. Some may also include other events that we have held in the past, such as some of the past events, the air shows. So we always like to keep a remaining balance in there by other events that have occurred in the past and will occur in the future. So this past year, as well as the year prior to COVID, there were certainly not as many.
And just for clarity, what's the fiscal year that the airport operates off of? Is it July 1?
So the fiscal year ends on June 31st, and the FY23 starts on July 1st.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Commissioners?
So I'm looking at the snapshot, and this is Commissioner Slickey. I see the budget, the adjusted budget, which I'm to assume is to carry through the end of next month. And I see already our year-to-date unfavorable amount is greater than what we expected it to be for the entire year. Are we expecting that to improve in the next 6 weeks, or continue to get farther away from the difference between the adjusted budget revenue and expenses? I'm not sure why we're so far off. I see negative $39,000, and I'm assuming this information, period 10, this is, we still have 2 months left to go from where this is published. Wondering the reason for why so negative. I'm looking on this page.
Yeah,
On this one.
so what you're looking at is not, I don't know what line item you're looking at, but sometimes there are over expenditures in certain items such as snow removal. So for example, this year was over snow removal, and
Gloria, I think this is on
based
the,
on
Gloria, this is on the other sheet, the,
Airport financial snapshot from Eunice.
right. This one just has just as the 3-line one that's just kind of a roll up through April. And
Okay, got
the
it.
year to date is negative 39,000.
yes, so as far as the,
Of which 6,000 is not movable, which is understandable.
say again.
I said I see the couple negative line items on the more in-depth budget, and can certainly appreciate being over on snow removal. But I'm just curious, that's one of only a couple items that were negative on the overall budget, but we're still negative quite a bit with 2 months to go on the snapshot. So I don't know what other items are
Driving
that aren't listed as line items on your more in-depth list.
Yeah, so at the time, and Nikki, if you're on, I see you're on the call, you can also explain too. We were also at the time missing one of the payments from landing fees and fuel at the time the report was generated. So that may have had some impact on those numbers, but the transfers usually occur at this time of year where we transfer out where in items that we have not expected, such as the budget for conferences and events and those items. So those get moved around to actually support the rest of the budget. So Nikki, if you can add anything to that, but as far as our year-to-date expenses, it's actually helpful.
Yeah, so we still have both landing fuel and other lease expenses to be deposited for May and June, which will be way more increased than that negative 32. So you'll see that reflected after we do our deposits for,
You anticipate.
yes,
Revenues.
absolutely more than that 30,000 you're seeing negative, because we'll still have our landing fees, leases, tie downs, fuel, to be deposited for May and June, which will reflect that difference by the end of the fiscal year.
And those aren't part of the predicted
No.
revenue that's in the line 1 of that sheet?
No,
Okay, that's
What
right.
you're seeing is a snapshot exactly from the date the report was generated.
yeah, which
So-
I only ran it through the end of April. So we
Yes,
still have May
so
and
what you
June.
use on actual form.
Mm-hmm. So
That
that
will
will be
realize your date.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else, commissioners, on the financial reports? Okay, we'll move on to number 6, presentations, Airport Solutions Group, Craig Schuster.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Craig Schuster with Airport Solutions Group. Project number 1, the master plan. We are still updating some environmental sections in the master plan document. The LP is currently still being revised, and hopefully we'll have that wrapped up shortly. I hope I'll report back to Gloria to let her know when we think that should get completed. The next 3 projects, number 2 is the permitting of the perimeter fence, and number 3, the noise modeling study, and number 4, the update of your SWIP and spill plan. MASTA had to reissue contracts for those 3 projects. They're all done, but they had to reissue contracts. They did that about mid to late April. And right now, as far as I know, talking to Nikki, that those contracts with downtown need to be signed, and they need to be signed and back to MassDOT by June 1. So any help from anyone who has contacts for downtown, they'll push that along, because we don't want to lose the funding. Because I'm not sure what they'll do if it comes after June 1. They might have to redo it all again, but it's not going to look good. So,
Just to follow up on that, I was copied in on an email that came from City Hall on one of the contracts that they had. You were saying they have multiples down
yeah,
there?
there's 3 contracts, one for the fence, one for noise modeling, and one for the sweat plan. Number 2, 3, and 4, so there's 3 different contracts. And I know they're in City Hall, I think on City Solicitor's desk, when we sign it, and then send it to the mayor. So, and I'm not sure if they need more information or anything like that, but I'm just letting you know that MassDOT told us that they need it by June 1st. And time's kind of running
For all
out
3.
with the holiday and everything. So
Okay.
appreciate any help by anyone that can help push that along.
And Gloria, you're aware of that, I mean, at this point?
Yeah, so that's in the manager's report. I will be giving an update on the.
Okay.
Sorry, Gloria.
Thank you.
Sorry, Gloria.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right. And the last project, cold storage building, it's been on here. We're going to be looking at that after the new fiscal year starts, July 1. It had to be on the master plan in order for MassDOT to consider it, and it is in the master plan now since we've been doing it. So after July 1, we're going to start looking at that to get you a temporary shelter here to store your equipment that sits outside in the rain and the weather. And that's pretty much it, unless people have some specific questions.
Has our local share of these projects gone out? Or do we need to sign those contracts for those to go
You
out?
need to send a contract, then I have invoices ready to go, so we can get paid, and we'll give you those invoices. I can't submit it yet until you.
Yeah, we need to sign a contract before we do any.
So yeah, so your local share needs have not gone out. I mean, I think on the perimeter fence, some of that has gone out from about 1.5 years ago when we built, but there's still some more remaining. Nothing's been, for your local share, nothing has been, I believe, built for the noise modeling study that we paid, or the update of the SWIP as well.
Anything else, commissioners, for Craig?
Thank you, Craig.
No, thanks,
Thank you,
Greg.
guys.
Move on to the airport manager's report.
So as Craig mentioned, the master plan is currently under review. I spoke with ASG and the actual ALP, airport layout plan is in review by the FAA consultants right now, so that's actually a really good timeline for moving things along. The ALP can be reviewed online on our website. It's one of the last chapters that you'll see, the airport layout plan. That's essentially the most important planning document that the FAA will use, as well as the airport sponsor, for all planning purposes, capital projects over the next foreseeable future, and then it gets updated as needed. Nikki is in the process of renewing many bags at the airport, so we had phased them out when we first started about 3 years ago, so everyone has a 3-year process. So over the next, we've had many badges renewed over the past 3 months, and actually someone probably more to renew over the next few months. So it's an arduous process, and I compliment Nikki for all the work she's done on that, in addition to end-of-year reports, which is also very, it's a lot of work for the year. Anyway, and as far as petroleum PFAS, I submitted both a document and a map, monitoring map that you can take a look at. GCAK has conducted ongoing work and sampling with both the RTNs, petroleum release, and the AFFF release, so that you will see in the document we are in compliance. We are actually going to have a schedule for what is included in the next compliance schedule, and that memo is included in the document. The Beverly Fire Department conducted 4 days of simulated fire apparatus response There was no fuel and no pump from spring knowledge and no line burn. So those were long days in which airport tenants took place, and our tower manager, Mayor Parsons, was very helpful and instrumental in making sure that Beverly Fire Department has been, every single one of those shifts has participated in this event. We will probably do coordinate event with chambers as well that's similar, due to the response efforts on both sides of the airports. The noise subcommittee work is later on in the agenda, so I'll let Paul and Treasury and the commissioners who also are may update us with those meetings. The non-area land and development of the RFP around and for building 45 will be discussed later because I believe it is on the agenda. Paul did send out an email stating did receive please for building 45, so we can talk about that later on the agenda. Any questions?
As far as the fire department drill, sorry, this is Commissioner Breen, what other stakeholders are involved in it? Is it just the Beverly Fire Department, or were there other municipal aid entities involved?
No, because it was such a massive amount for each day of fire training, we held the event for Beverly Fire Department, and since they are the responding agency, they do receive the first call, and then they disseminate the call as needed based on the response and what is needed at the response. So since they are the first entity and the one that does respond, they took precedence as far as the amount of people, because it was a single shift of all the fire, every single one of the fire department that's part of the training.
And does the FBO and the airport maintenance staff participate in that?
Yes, so we had participation from multiple tenants on all those days actually.
Thank you.
Negative. The FBO did not participate.
I'm sorry, I'll have to hold the public comment, but thank you.
I'm just saying, it's a lot.
Anything else?
So, and I'll just elaborate on that more. It was both training on the west and the east side.
So noted. Anything else, commissioners?
Not this time.
Okay, we'll move on to new business. So are you going to continue with that regarding the noise subcommittee update?
No, at this time, you can continue that.
Well, does Aaron or Matt have anything to contribute?
I guess, this is Commissioner Henry, just for the record, I'm not on the noise committee.
Okay. So,
And neither am I at this point in time. But Matt, go ahead.
okay. So with Scott Dupree, we need some additional assistance here, I think. There's been a lot of email activity the last month, a lot of complaints. We've had a significant uptick in nighttime touch and goes, and some of them were occurring as late as 11 p.m., which I'm pretty uncomfortable with, actually. There's nothing in the airport rules about such, a late night thing. We don't. Some airports do have curfews, do not. So that probably needs to be addressed with the FBOs to see if they can cut down on that somewhat. The letter that we had attempted to send out to all of our badged pilots finally got out, thanks a lot to Nikki, actually. Typed in a lot of addressing. And Scott did get some responses back from the pilots indicating everything from, wow, thank you for letting me know, I had no idea this was an issue, to, well, they live next to an airport, what do they expect? So sort of a full gamut of responses, but we're hoping that some education there might have taken place. There is another meeting scheduled for, I think, June
Matt, if I can, so I think what you brought up, I had kind of hoped made it onto an agenda, because I think last week we got, at least at the Danvers Town Hall, a number of emails from folks about the overnight touch and goes. I say overnight, it was after dark.
Approximately 10 p.m.
Yeah, I don't know if other commissioners.
11:30.
received- Not sure if other commissioners.
11:30.
11:30, yeah. So is the, at this point, is the noise subcommittee kind of tacking to providing the full commission with a recommendation for subsequent changes to the rules and regs in that regard, or how do you, kind of, where are you heading?
So that, again, there is no legal way to prohibit them at this point. It's a valid aviation use of the airport. Those are pilots who are either getting their nighttime currency or are trying to do their nighttime training. And there's restrictions on the hours from the FAA's standpoint. It has to be at least an hour after sunset. So right now, that means the earliest they can go is 9 p.m. So, you know, it's a difficult situation. It's not covered by the town's, any town's, noise laws.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure how to address it, other than to say, after 10 p.m., you really want to think about what you're doing as a pilot.
And that would be something in our good neighbor policy and our noise abatement
Right.
plan, where are we putting that?
So, yeah, it would be in our either good neighbor policy or our noise abatement procedure, which is voluntary.
Yeah.
So we either need to amend that or reinforce that. I actually don't recall if it's in there today.
Mr. Vice Chair, if I may,
Go ahead.
I would just like to remind the commissioners that we do have a sublease in front of us tonight, and I'll remind folks of the last sublease that we approved. Actually, I believe it was a transfer of a lease to a flight school. And the owner of the flight school sat in front of this board and said they will take every effort to work with the board on community noise. So yes, I believe FAA policy, we struggle with what we can enforce. But when we have business owners that commit to a board when they come in for a sublease approval, I think you should be reminded that, if you can't call in an operator of your aircraft that's doing 9 touch and goes at 10 o'clock at night, I don't know if they're owning up to their responsibility, but they stood in front of the board.
And this is Henry again. Along those lines, I kind of was wondering, and again, because we can't legally curb it or prohibit it, the state police put in the paper, this Saturday night, there's going to be a sobriety checkpoint somewhere in Essex County. Could we get to a spot where we ask them to at least give the community some sort of notice that, and I'm not saying that the community would love this idea, but at least if we knew it was going to be a Thursday night or a Sunday, you know what I mean? Like, not that anyone would propose a Sunday night, but just something where it's a good, gives them a heads up that, in that way, if we're gonna do it, at least people got notice that it was coming, and then they can make their plans appropriate. I don't know if that's doable or not, but just as a good neighborly thing, it's like, well, you could tell us, and I might say yes.
So, a couple of comments.
Aaron, this,
Go ahead, Gloria.
so I spoke with with both Beverly Flight Center and with Avier, and both have done really a phenomenal response at this, because again, it is voluntary. They have actually sent out notices to their pilots, and this was at a very strong urging for them to not to touch and go
this is Commissioner Treffery. I guess I'm curious at what input or requirement can the flight school operators enforce? And I'll let you get a response from the owner of one of such. Paul wants to say something, but if you want to, you probably have to come up here, Paul, and I'll allow that with this special topic. Trying to find out what the owner of the business can, like Commissioner Green was talking about, you know, if somebody comes out at 10 o'clock at night and uses an aircraft. So Paul,
so
speak.
What we have, Paul Bullier of Air Flight School, what we can do and have done to try to proactively have a good neighbor policy enforced. We do, it's printed with our syllabus that we give all of our students, and we do enforce it. As far as specifically nighttime operations, I just want to change one of the words. We must be talking about full stop or stop and go landings. Touching those aren't helpful to pilots at night for currency or for just terminology, just semantics. Every student to acquire their private pilot license must have 3 hours of nighttime training and must have 10 full stop landings in order to apply for their private pilot license. What we've done is our curriculum being scenario-based, mission-based, cross-country based, our nighttime curriculum is divided into 2 separate flights across 4 to 5 different airports, so that there should only be 3 out of those 10 necessarily occurring at Beverly Airport. So that helps. The others are at Albany, Keene, Portland, and Sanford. So that will help significantly. And I have a good working relationship with the owners of the other flight school, and I'd be happy to share those ideas so they can see how they might fit or not fit with their particular curriculum. They are a 141 school, they have different constraints and may or may not be able to do something like this. But that is a step that should be minimizing this. Also, all of our landings, daytime or nighttime, we have enforced with all of our students and our instructors strictly full-length departures back into a landing, taxi back to the threshold of the runway for departure from there. The benefit to that is if this is the runway length, by the time they leave the airport boundary, they should be at about 1,000 feet, which is at least less impact than someone departing from midfield on a touch and go, which would be at 400, 500, 600 feet as they cross over the houses. It's the little bit we can do. And we also don't do touch and goes as part of our curriculum. Our pattern work is generally done at other airports by design, which is wonderful for their education, and it's wonderful for our good neighbor policy. It doesn't do as much as a school might do for Beverly's numbers and reputation.
Right.
But anyway, cuts both ways.
Can you clarify for me, this is Commissioner Treffery, and I really, you know, I need to be more educated on the operation of the 2 flight schools. I'm curious, how many instructors do you have? And my belief, please educate me, you know, the student and the instructor agree on a time to come to the airport and do the training, and hopefully the instructor follows the guidance that you as the owner of the flight school put out. Right, so I'm just curious how many different instructors you're working with.
We have a dozen instructors, and most of our training is toward the private license, and then probably roughly half continue on for instrument and commercial training. Instrument and commercial training, the advanced training, by the way, is even more remote, is more further away, just arrival and departure to Beverly once per flight lesson. The private pilot curriculum, flights 1 through 7 are all cross-country flights or flights to a different airport. First to Portsmouth, Marshfield, Fitchburg, Nashua, Lawrence. That's our equivalent of the touch and goes. which is up to Lawrence to land, back to Beverly to land, up to Lawrence to land, back to Beverly to land. After that, it then goes into truly cross-country, goes out to the practice area. So again, we're still just one landing. There should be 2 flights in the curriculum that are focused on repeat landings. Still full stop, taxi back, departure landings. But our curriculum is based first on safety and education, but collaterally has a great impact on our neighbors, is away from here, with a return to Beverly.
And
Everybody does it. That's why I don't fly very much. I'm on the ground ensuring, I'm stalking the computer and making sure everyone's.
And just to clarify, I believe it's my understanding as well, the airport is used by instructors in flight schools from other airports.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Right, so that's part of the hard issue is how do we control somebody who's from Bedford coming in here at 11, 12, 1 o'clock in the morning, and they're doing something here
I would say in that
that you
case,
and the other owner
I would
are
say
not.
in that case, then probably the best thing would be for the commission to have a brief, simple policy that would then be published in the chart supplement. Stanford does it, I think. Lawrence does it, just with a not too overly restrictive a statement, but something that guides what kind of operations are welcome. Is that legal? Can you do, more from
I'll say that, with all due respect, Mr. Vice Chair.
Please.
The systematic problem aircraft doing multiple touch and goes are based aircraft. They're not transit.
That's correct.
Now, Matt, you say that's correct. I'm just curious, have we been able, go ahead.
So, I looked at flight-aware plots of a number of the complaints, and they were all flight center aircraft. Some of them did clearly concurrency. Guy went up to 3 stop and goes and was stopped for the night. But I watched or saw another aircraft from flight center do 9 touch and goes late. So that was not concurrency, it was just practice. And that one was a bit more disturbing. And as I said before, we have limited options. We have to operate within the guidelines of the FAA because of grant assurances. So we're limited to a voluntary set of policies and rely on the flight schools when we're talking about students to remind them of their sort of social responsibilities and try to balance that against what they're doing. I'll also comment that there's no guarantee that those flights are students. The flight center will rent an aircraft to a licensed pilot who may just decide to go out and do some practice.
Understood.
Either way, it's on the business. We're primarily talking flight center, the complaints, that's what I've seen. It's on the business.
Matt, when you say that, that's because the noise subcommittee, that's, you guys are doing the deep dive and the bulk of the complaints are coming out of the flight center. Is that what you're saying?
The complaints that I saw occurred with planes that were from flight center.
Thank you. I appreciate the wording.
Mr. Vice Chair, I will go on record saying that we have 2 flight schools. One, I think, does an incredible job with community outreach. The other one lacks. And it's my hobby, because it wakes me up. Ruins my Sunday and Saturday afternoons. But yeah, we have one entity that gets it out to their stakeholders, and there's one that just is lacking from the data.
The other school, if I may, and I would like to point out that the other school is under new aviation young ownership also. And if they're, I would be happy to start an outreach so we could talk together about it. But as I said, I think everybody would agree, obviously, safety is first. And we have wildly different curricula, and theirs is a 141, a little more entrenched. But I wonder if I wonder how aware they are of the problems being, and we all should be aware, but I wonder how aware they are, and how high up it is on their plate,
Right.
so to speak.
They were copied on at least one of the emails.
Sure.
So,
Well, Matt,
yeah,
I'm just gonna jump in. Clearly, there's an opportunity for more direct communication with the other flight school. Maybe it's beyond emails at this point. Maybe we can get together and meet with the other flight school. Maybe you take Paul up on his offer to share some common practices which might be applicable to their operation. But if we have the data and we have instances, we can at least bring them in and talk to them and get their perspective and possibly let them know where we stand and what information we have. So I think that's a course of action that we probably need to pursue.
I think that's quite reasonable, and it brings me to my, I had requested an agenda item for this. It's not sustainable with just me representing the commission.
Understood.
Okay, so some help on that.
Well, considering the size of the commission as it stands right now, where you're kind of looking at de facto noise abatement committee to some degree, even though Mr. Commissioner Green is ruling the weekends already. So, but yeah, we need to get together and try to do something. Because it was, you know, Scott was on it and you were on it. Was there a third person?
No.
Okay.
No, it was two representatives that operates as a working group, which allows us to be a little more nimble around open meeting law requirements. So it needs to be small.
Sure.
Which is obviously not difficult to maintain small.
Well, even 3 and 4 fall within the not a quorum issue, so sometimes too small is too small. Hello?
Hi, I've had my hand up for a minute or two. This is Bill Casselwan. I represent Marshall Aero Club. I'm also your AOPA representative. And I also have a lot of dealings with the FAA.
Okay, Bill.
What you're talking about here, but you're really, I think you need.
Sir, if you can give, sir, hold on
Here.
a second, you gotta get recognized before you get the floor. Hold on.
Yeah.
I appreciate your concern and input. I will allow maybe a 1 or 2 minute statement since you're not necessarily with the flight school. But go ahead and go ahead and give us your 2 minutes, please.
Okay, well, thank you very much. You're kind of getting into an area that's questionable. Politely, I'll remind you that you people are pretty much involved in the property management business, and you're not involved in the air operations business. Anything you have to say or think about regarding touch and goes and restrictions, you really need to discuss with the FAA. I've been on the commission for many, many years, and they have repeatedly told the commission that, first of all noise complaints were supposed to be directed to them.
Well,
Anything you do in terms of trying to constrain operations should be clear to them.
Okay.
I don't have the authority. I'm not trying to be a bad guy, but
I understand. I appreciate your comment.
that's what I have to say.
I appreciate your comment. We're gonna move on. Anybody else on the commission have any further comments? I'd like to, go ahead, Jeff.
I'd like to point out, I hold no expertise in property management, but 3 of the 6 members on the commission are pilots, including air transport pilots. So we appreciate your comment, and we're just trying to weigh all options and opinions equally.
Right. Matt, you got anything else you want to add at this point? I know we have a June 9th meeting.
Eric, we've discussed what needs to be discussed.
Okay.
Thank you, Matt. I guess I'll just throw it there for the commission to consider. Maybe, Matt, sounds in a way like you guys have an upcoming meeting. I understand the lift is going to be unsustainable for one. Maybe it's time to kind of bring the work back to the committee as the whole and we can kind of recast things at the next meeting and kind of figure out how we want to move the next steps forward. It sounds like you have some ideas. We can probably weigh in on that and then decide who should continue to work in that forum, or if it works completely, we can, you know, bring it back to us and finish it, get it over the finish line from here. So I second your idea of having a specific agenda item at the next meeting to kind of put a bow on that.
Sure. Okay. I'm gonna move forward. We have several more items on the agenda. The next item is the sublease agreement, Baker Aviation LLC with Hover Aviation LLC. Gloria, I'm gonna let you take point on this.
Okay, so I came in somewhat on the, I would say, the tail end of this. My understanding is Baker Aviation, Stephanie Williams has gone to petition as well as temporary assistance from Stephen Rowdy since November, with the request to sublease for the space to help cover aviation.
Gloria, if I may, I'm just, Stephanie Baker, correct? Stephanie Williams is the city solicitor, she's not involved, correct? You referenced Stephanie Williams.
Stephanie
Oh,
Baker,
okay.
yeah.
Thank
Baker
you.
Aviation,
Flattery.
management by Stephanie Baker. But I do know that I think Stephanie Baker also went to the city solicitors to get the sublease approved. So I put the sublease for your review in front with Hover Aviation, and I'm not in the room, but Stephanie Baker is available and they represent Hover Aviation. They can talk a little bit about the operation as it put forward the sublease and the required documents as well as the application.
Well, Stephanie Baker is at the table along with Sam. I apologize. Is there a call for comment from you, Stephanie?
Do you have any questions for us with the sublease and the information that's been provided to you?
I do not, and I don't care to make you guys plead your case for the third consecutive meeting.
Yeah.
So I'd like to
Yes.
just point out that we appreciate your patience and the situation, you know, the unique challenges of navigating your lease approval. So I will say this is the first new aviation operation that I've been a part of approving. I'm comfortable with subleases. The meeting the airport minimum standards area of it is where I'm less comfortable with, so I'm going to defer to some of my colleagues on that. But from what I've been presented, I think that you've done a good job, a very good job of providing what we kind of had to work together to define and kind of create this package. I know that we're working on updating the minimum standards and policies and procedures, and that we had I believe, Craig, it was you that provided a first draft at a checklist for a new operation on the field?
That was Bob and Steve Rowan, yes.
And had that been fully approved? We're not yet using that, correct?
So this is Gloria. So there was previously a lease application agreement in place last year. The commission voted on it sometime in April last year. I submitted that document with in the documents I submitted for Hover Aviation and Baker Aviation. That document is in the lease, is in their documents for approval for tonight, since that was already approved by the commission. So that was the document that was given to them to use. Now, I do know that ASG had also worked on a similar document, so that would be potentially merged with the existing document to the future leases. But for now, since one sublease and lease assignment was already approved without the application, there's a fee on it, and that fee was waived since this application process was already in place, but for some reason it was not used on previous lease.
Yep, I'm not suggesting that we wait and hold you to whatever the new standards are. I was just curious if they had come out and if there was going to be a part of this. So no, I would agree that we don't.
There are no updates on the minimum standards right now. There are no current updates.
Okay. So I'm comfortable voting on the material that's presented in front of me as being adequate. I'm just concerned that I may be missing something. I'd like to put a motion tonight for these people with fables.
So I have a question.
Go ahead, Matt.
So in the presentation that we heard, I must have missed, or it wasn't brought up, that the other aviation owner also operates a flight school. But in the paperwork I see tonight, flight school is checked off. So what is the plan?
Can we get a clarification, Sam?
Yeah, so I do have the vow to be a flight school, but my goal, like I said, is doing tours. I'm just saying I can teach, but the whole thing is being just a tour company. Like I told you guys, already heard about everything. I'm not gonna be flying at night, guys. Don't worry about the noise. I obviously started my descent over the airport. The airport I was here, she know me. I was done like high as possible. And I started my descent over the airport, so to control the noise as well. So you guys are gonna have the problem with the habitat you go at night with me.
Do you have authorization from the FAA to be a flight
As a
school?
Part 61, you just have to be a certified.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead, Commissioner Green.
Gloria, as the airport manager, is there a recommendation to the board as far as
The
operational?
recommendation, yes, the recommendation is to approve the sublease. They have exhibited all the documents required needed to go through the city to process this as a sublease. They have also received the FAA's approval, and there are no issues with what I see as the sublease request.
And
So
from,
the request is to approve the sublease.
and from an operational component, are you comfortable with this aircraft on the fixed wing ramp at Rep. Baker Aviation?
What? 100%. So helicopters can arrive in the park from any part of the field. I know this, I was a consultant designing helicopter pads in the past. The operation has actually been worked out with the tower staff just as a precaution. So as far as the safety standards, there will be a pilot escorting passengers just like in any other operation on the airfield that is currently done through an escort. There are no safety concerns whatsoever for one helicopter. Just as a reminder, we have 5 helicopters on the west side operating daily currently. So this one helicopter on the east side will be in full visual control of the tower. And when the tower is not operating, they may or may not be operating. I don't know, based on their schedule.
Well, I'm comfortable at this point, following Commissioner Fitke's comments. Can I entertain a motion to approve the sublease?
Can I make a comment?
Oh, go ahead.
All right, this is Nikki or Michelle. Based off the map, we are losing a tie-down spot for hover to be able to take off and land. How is that going to be handled as we are losing a revenue of $100 a month or $960 a year to a tie-down spot? Is that going to be counted as a tie-down spot now that we have lost the revenue to a tie-down plane?
As a helicopter is inside the hangar. When this place is empty, I use the place. If not, I put the helicopter another place of the run.
As it says here, it's per tower that you have to land and take off to that one
What
spot,
I
right?
spoke with Mary, when it's empty, I will take off and then from there because there's safe spot over there. But if there is airplane over there, like I said, I'll move a little bit forward over the glass,
And that's
like we do over the news over there.
Okay.
We don't have a down spot.
Yeah.
We go where it's empty, we put the helicopter and we
Yeah.
take off.
100 a month, or if they pay yearly, $960.
$960. So potentially, we could lose $960.
If the tower,
I'm gonna say, we do not direct him, he knows not to go. Like, first of all, those tie-down spots are even used. But second of all, he goes beyond those, he's on the old Alpha.
okay, it just says per tower.
Okay.
And I already had a tie down cancel. because they were worried about the helicopter takeoff in that space.
Did that tie down go somewhere else?
I
To a
put them
different
in a
spot?
different spot, yes.
Okay,
That's all.
okay.
So as long as it's a safety, if I do need that space, we're not.
Well, we'll just have to watch if the rest of the tie downs become fully occupied at some point in time. And, you know, we would like some kind of feedback if there are incidences where there's nowhere else.
There's plenty
to
of
put it.
space for him, even if all those
Okay,
tie-downs ever.
so that's good, I appreciate that. So I'm going to, can I entertain a motion to accept and approve the sublease agreement between Baker Aviation and Hover Aviation? Go ahead, Commissioner Breen.
I may have to lean on council over there, but I would like to discuss
By all means.
condition to the motion, specifically in the sublease. It states 700 square feet of storage.
What page are you on?
I'm sorry, I'm on page 1 of Baker Aviation Management LLC,
Oh,
Hangar
okay.
Office Tenant Sublease.
Okay.
I would like to discuss a conditional motion that the wording 700 square feet of storage space for tenant's aircraft is replaced with the tenant's actual registered aircraft and the registration number. And the motion would be conditional to that one aircraft.
Can you elaborate on that just to clarify for me?
To elaborate on that is so, a young entrepreneur, I have all the faith that he'll be very successful. We potentially could be allowing an entity to grow that has multiple rotorcraft doing training or tours in the traffic pattern. The condition would allow the sublease for the one aircraft. If there were additional aircraft that ends up growing in the business, there would have to be another sublease brought to us.
What's your reasoning behind that? I don't see it.
Historic knowledge of helicopter tour operations and how they grow and how it becomes an impact to the community.
Now, in community, you mean surrounding communities or the airport community?
I think
The surrounding
in this case.
community
Okay.
and the airport community.
This
I
one
mean,
in
he can-
particular, so he has, it's airport storage space at the moment for where his is. And you're saying you just want the N number
A registration
listed?
number.
Because, say there was a second helicopter and
Or a larger.
it fit in
No,
hangar 3, it could be next to it or beside it, and it could be a totally separate, we have multiple people that rent and have multiple planes at different times. I don't see why it's connected to the operation.
Would it make sense to at least, instead of just the one tail number, let's say no more than 2 or 3, I mean, you're worried, you're pointing out the valid concerns about growth beyond what we would care to see at this point in time. But if there's, you know.
It was plans for a second. We've already been told there was plans for a second.
Right. And your plans for a second aircraft?
For standby, who has one, has enough, because if one broke down for maintenance, no fly. But guys, I'm not gonna be flying really early in the morning or late. My G started flying after 10 in the morning and until sun. And like I said, you can ask anyone who saw me flying, ask Mary. I came like 1,000 feet sometimes, I came higher, and basically I do hours over the airport.
Understood. It isn't necessarily the operational, it's, I guess it's the volume issue, which Commissioner Green is touching upon. My question would be, is there any other circumstance or situation on the airport where the commission gets involved in how many aircraft are operating, you know, in flight school or otherwise? I hear, I know exactly what you're trying to say. I'm just saying, do we have, I guess, the authority, but also maybe the desire to cap a growing business? I can understand to a certain level, if you don't want to have 3, whatever, but if there is a growth in a situation, do we curtail it before that growth even occurs? I don't know if that's within our mandate.
I guess I might ask Gloria, or if I'm allowed, Paul at Avier, like, are you limited on the number of planes that you're allowed with your school?
No, I'm also concerned by the discussion of capping. I understand the impact discussion, but the idea of capping a growing business, I would take exception if it were done to mine.
My desire isn't to cap the business. My desire is to have the ability to have the proposed tenant come back and say, I have a desire for another aircraft in the 700 square feet, step by step. Whereas this language allows the airport, there's a lot of broad narrative.
I can potentially see you and us respectfully, or Hubbard, respectfully coming back and saying, you know, yes, I've added another aircraft or something, but to go through this process that we've already been through, that has been difficult in and of itself with the hurdles and whatnot, that seems kind of taxing at this point.
In my opinion, it's not very taxing because there's no brick and mortar investment on the operator's end. And essentially, it's just a sublease. So I think there's a safeguard mechanism that if you limit it to the registered aircraft, that there's some protection from the airport and the community side.
I think it would have to legally be put through, you know, the city solicitor's office or Gloria or whoever wants to discuss it, but it seems pretty
if there's any further
limiting.
discussion.
Yeah.
I hear, okay.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
I'm looking around this room, I'm guessing this room's probably 600 square feet. Just guessing. At 700 square feet, how many?
Those were estimates.
Okay.
I didn't go out and actually measure. I mean, you know where hangar 3 is, and we have how
So
many
then
aircraft
I guess I'll
in
just
it.
get to my actual question, which is how many, is this only Sam's space? Is it shared with other, are you juggling other aircraft around?
For this particular lease, it deals with his space, and it was an estimate that I put into the lease. I mean, he has,
I'm just
he
wondering,
has his
I'm just wondering,
helicopter
that
there,
doesn't,
and
that doesn't sound like space for 5 helicopters to me. It sounds like space for 2.
Yeah, I don't have that.
And if you had one that was waiting on a maintenance or something, maybe you could put it in the back, but it doesn't seem like you're gonna grow, and I'm not saying that your business is gonna grow, but you're not gonna have a dozen helicopters in the current arrangement. I think that by nature of this relatively small sublease, you can grow, you have the opportunity to grow your business, but you're not going to become, you know, somebody that's the size of either flight school even, without coming back to us and looking to lease an additional sublease in a different hangar, or moving your business, you know, to a different hangar entirely where you can have 3 or 4 helicopters, and at that point, it would necessitate another discussion anyway, because you'd be up for a new arrangement outside of the current one. I'm wondering how much, you know, genuine concern we have trying to balance, and I know where people's minds are at, where we've just come out of an extensive noise committee discussion, and now we're right into growing airport operations. And it is difficult to balance everybody's wants and needs. I'm a pilot, but I live under the approach to 3-4. Right? So it's like, you can't have it always, but
I agree.
I think that the size is appropriate right now, and that if it got any bigger, that we would end up being presented with something anyway. You know, maybe we could, would you be open to something that says that, you know, you would have to seek commission approval for any more than 2 rotorcraft? Would that satisfy, I don't know if that would satisfy my fellow commissioner either. I'm not trying to put words in his mouth, I'm just trying to get something that can satiate everybody right now.
Well, and I'll jump in, my perspective, this is Commissioner Treffery. I think that the stated limit at 700 square feet, come with your observation, kind of caps it to an extent that it were, you know, even 2 or 3 would be outrageous to think you're gonna get 3 or 4, it's an impossibility. If it did grow to that extent, he would be, I assume, have to come back and look for a new location for this growing enterprise beyond the 700 foot that's in his sublease agreement. So I think the 700 in itself, I appreciate what you're bringing up. Commissioner Henry, go ahead.
Just have a question, I guess, probably for Paul, but the checkbox that I was, again, that you pointed out was the flight school was the one that's checked off. I mean, is that's to me is one of the concerns, is that, I mean, if we talked about that, is that something that we could say we like this as is, but we're not comfortable with the flight school option here? Like the tours, the aerial photography that we've talked about in the last couple of meetings, that all sounded good. I think we were comfortable with that. Now there's a flight school involved.
The tour for me personally is more problematic, just with some historic
no,
stuff that I've had.
And just to follow up again, Commissioner correctly, regarding the flight school situation, again, if the 700 square feet, to me, caps the operation to a manageable level. Whether, you know, if the FAA says, yeah, he's fully capable of, if he's not giving tours, he's also capable to train somebody how to fly. I don't have a problem, and I'm not, you know, I won't be involved in what he does with his helicopters, whether he's charging somebody to sightsee or to fly. If he has full credentials to do that, that's his business. And he's leasing 700 square feet, not 1,400, not 2,000, not 3,500.
That's a first question. What's the size of this room?
We're not going to go there, sir. But
I'm just trying to get 700 square feet of perspective.
Sir, thank you very much. Okay. Commissioner Schlecki.
Yes, so I have an operational question for you, Sam. Yeah. If you do flight training, you obviously have been working with the tower and you've shown that you are showing a good level of concern for being a good neighbor, and your procedures of escorting passengers, your approach, your departure. You know, when I was flight instructing at Hanscom, they had dedicated helicopter practice areas, off the runway, off taxiway, but you don't need a ton of space to practice auto-rotating or approaches, and you can be kind of, you can use space that the other fixed-wing aircraft can't use. I've never been privy to any of that information at this field. If you're doing approaches or you're practicing landings and taxiing, hovering with students, is there a corner of the airport that's most removed, I'm picturing up that direction, that would be least, it would be most beneficial, keeping in mind all the noise complaints? You're not around tied down aircraft, you're not around the neighborhood right at the end of that runway, you're kind of just up there by, you know, whatever that is, 97 and whatever street going into Wenham. You know, there are some quiet areas.
Sure.
Do you have the ability to use those?
Yeah, if the tower could hear me for that, no problem also.
I'd be interested to see what areas of the airport are designated for helicopter operations, and maybe not officially, but what the common historical areas are with the tower.
Agreed. And just to follow up, this conversation really doesn't have anything to do with the sub-lease before us. This is the commissioners just talking about our own knowledge within, you know, the whole footprint and outside. You know, I think we've talked about this. They've been here for months on end. Commissioner Green has brought forward his concerns. I would still like to go ahead and have a vote on as it stands right now, including the 700 square feet, if that is okay.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Does anybody want to make a motion?
Do we have any comments from the two commissioners that have been quietly listening to us?
Yeah, just a comment, although I appreciate what Commissioner Green was looking at. We have to be wary of any sort of grant assurance violations in terms of restricting a valid aircraft aviation use. So I'm not sure you can limit the number of aircraft. The only thing we can limit is with respect to safety.
Okay, my question stands. Does anybody want to make a motion on this topic?
I will make a motion to approve the sublease for other commissioners like you. For Ms. Packer. I don't know if she's still here. Can't see if she's there.
Oh, she's there.
Yes, Mr. Schultz made that motion. Who seconded it, please?
Commissioner Treffery seconds the motion.
Thank you very much. Mr. Breen?
No.
Mr. Treffery?
Yes.
Mr. Schultz?
Yes.
Mr. Gentile?
Yes.
Mr. Henry?
Yes.
Mr. Mosier?
Yes.
Thank you, motion carries.
Okay, congratulations.
Thank you so
And
much.
again. Welcome.
Best of luck, Sam.
Whatever you need, work with me, please just say I will do my best to.
Sure, I appreciate that, and I'm sure the commission does as well. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Good luck. Good luck.
Thank you.
The next topic of conversation, Aviator Flight School, says denied fuel by space operator, presentation by Aviator Flight School owner. Paul, do you want to come before the commission? Can you just tell us about your situation that you want to inform us of?
Absolutely. Paul and Esteban Monteroso, co-owners of Aviator Flight School. I wrote it all down so I would make sure I did everything just right and not stray. Back on May 1st, a very busy Sunday, the North Atlantic self-serve fuel pump broke. When Esteban asked the line guys to bring the fuel truck to fuel up 3 of our planes, he was told that they were instructed to only fuel BFC and attendants with the truck. I called North Atlantic to get clarification. The desk agent on the phone confirmed the same information. To be fair, I became animated on the phone and he correctly disconnected the call. I drove over and introduced myself and apologized. The several desk reps told me that I would need to contact, quote, the accounting department. They gave me a business card with William, a longtime employee whom we know, with William's phone number already printed on the back. I called William, who further confirmed in his words, again, the words that I heard. The new owners told them not to fuel my planes with the truck because my company was in financial distress. I went back and forth with William for several minutes, and I ended the call after asking him if he would at least accept my credit card to use the truck. He was clear that even this would not be possible. We had to scramble to salvage what we could by flying planes to Lawrence to purchase fuel that afternoon. Of course, we had to cancel multiple flights as a result of not being able to purchase fuel. Of course, I was very emotional that day. I will say for the record that my company is in no financial distress, nor has it been at any point in our nearly 8-year history. Without going into too much detail, we've done in our 6th year, we did 1.1 million, and we've already done $750,000 in the first 5 months of this year. So the company is on a good growth, and I am happy with our reputation. So this event was an explicit refusal to serve fuel, to serve my company, and it's not entirely my place to dismiss it. The co-owner of Aviator LLC is Esteban Monteroso, and he has strong feelings about the way it made him feel that day as a minority business owner, on the spot. He was the one who was refused. He was further disturbed by indications that management intended to place blame on a longtime employee, himself a minority. Things were just stumbling in the wrong direction in our mind, and definitely Mr. Bond's perception. It was made clear to me that, however the impression came to North Atlantic's owners, William was told that, this is best as I can come for a quote from what I recall, the new owners made it clear that Aviator was not to be served. It's not my place to decide how it feels or doesn't feel to be denied service as a minority. I respect Esteban's perspective, and I defer to him on that. What I feel is clear is that this did actually happen and cannot happen again. The new owners have made a big investment in purchasing this FBO, and I also feel that my business has played no small part in the growth and recognition for this airport. Having flown, I just did some counting, 10,000 hours since January of 2020, and having social media accounts with over 23,000 followers. We bring a lot of good attention and a lot of good business to the airport. What I seek is the respect associated with the accomplishments, and I do want a positive, productive relationship at this airport in support of our common goals. So I wanted to state that that did occur, and I'd like to move forward from that. Esteban, how do you feel?
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce myself. My name is Esteban Moroso. I am the co-owner of Untitled Chapter. I'm originally from Colombia. I've been in this country for 15 years. 14 out of those years, I've been at this airport. I practically started from the ground up. You know, I started just washing rocks and earth for Flight Center. Then I was a line guy for Ken Robinson for 5 years. Then I came over as a manager, and then I had the chance to become a business owner, okay? So, I've never felt so humiliated and discriminated in my life before. Discrimination is a big word, and I know that in this day and age it has a lot of weight to it. But if we were to just sum up what just happened there, and how my business was crippled that Sunday afternoon, because I would have wished that North Atlantic would have come and introduced themselves to us first before taking someone's slander and defamation against us. You know, I would have wished that that would have been the case, but that didn't happen. They decided to act against my company on someone's slander, and it's something that I just cannot fathom that happened, but it happened 2022 in this day and age. So that's the reason why we want to bring this up to the commission to make sure that this never happens again to anyone, because it's not a good feeling. And like I said, just to sum up what happened, just the humiliation and the discrimination is something that we just cannot process. So thank you.
Thank you.
I guess, can you clarify for me, I mean, are you able to get fuel today? What's your fuel
That was
status?
rectified the next day.
Okay.
The self-serve pump, which is by design our primary source,
Okay.
was repaired overnight and was available to us the next day.
And clarify, that is over
Right here.
Oh, right here.
Right at, yeah.
Okay.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
Have you spoken with the new management?
Peter came over several days later, and again today. We've spoken twice.
Okay. So what is the status if the pump goes down again?
I'm sure. Would you? Is it okay?
Sure,
Yeah,
absolutely.
Please.
May I speak beyond answering that question? Obviously, the answer to that question is we take care of you, no questions asked.
Okay.
May I respond to?
Absolutely. Go ahead, please.
Okay.
Oh, can you just address, move
Sure.
forward so we can get you recorded, and give us your name and title again, please.
Sure. It's Peter Eidley again. I'm the part owner and CEO of Flight Level for the record. This whole incident was terribly unfortunate. It was handled the wrong way. The policy in place was unbeknownst to me. When I learned about it, I flew down here the following week. It happened on a weekend, and talked to Paul and expressed my sincerest apologies. I've yet to meet Esteban, but I'd like to extend my apologies to you as well. It was not a new company policy. It was a policy that was in place that I didn't know about. And I don't want to talk about my predecessor. I don't want to talk about the history. I want to, make that wrong right and, express my sincerest apology, because we want you guys to do well, and whatever we can do to help you, we'll do. So I'm open to any, and I adore William Lamamba. He's my right-hand man when it comes to this airport, and he volunteered of his own volition to call to apologize. And I said, yeah, I think that would be a good idea, because that is not a new company policy. That's a policy I had no idea about, that had been in place. It's since been removed once I've learned about it. And I want nothing more than for these guys to succeed, for all the airport businesses, our tenants to succeed. So, you know, to the extent that I can help that along.
Well, my problem is this lender came from a person that is associated with North Atlantic Air. They are not an employee of North Atlantic Air, but they're associated with North Atlantic Air. And this person has been pretty vocal about it. This is something that we're gonna let our legal team take care of, okay? But the fact that this person has been vocal about it, and the fact that North Atlantic decided to act against my company through this lender, is something that I'm just not okay with. And now William taking the fall, when William called me that Wednesday after the incident happened, and I'm like, wait a second, William. So let me just get this straight. So they discriminate against a Latino-owned business, and they want a black immigrant to take the blame. Really? Really?
No, I understand,
Right.
and the commission does too, and we've given you some leeway to express your feelings, and believe me, all of us appreciate them, and obviously your comments are, you know, we're hoping that the future is going to be better than what you experienced. But I will have to say, as the commission, you've made your statements, it really is not an issue, you know, other than the fact that you know, the fueling provider is working so closely with you to make sure it never happens again. But for the commission, we got your information, we've got the incident, at least we all know it happened. We're happy about the fact that it's moving towards a direction that hopefully will never happen again. Whatever happens beyond this is up to, like you said, between, you know, whatever entity. But the commission really, that's not for us at this point in time.
I think it was most important for us to, as I say, this regrettably happened, and we're moving forward, but now it's in the commission record for if people were actually to prove to be ill players, then the foundation is laid, and if it went the wrong way, then
right.
The ifs, then it's already laid out. Right. That's my interest.
Yep.
And as I said, okay, there you go. So that puts it behind us.
Well, again, we're going to speak for the whole commission here. You know, nobody is going to allow that kind of situation to flourish on the airport. And you know,
I think
it's regrettable it happened. I'm so happy to hear that the new owners have addressed it, and I want to thank you for bringing it to our attention. Okay.
I think we feel well supported.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
That's good. You've always got that.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you both very much.
Thanks.
We're going to continue on to the next phase. The next item is Building 45 lease space update of the CID Criminal Investigation Division space. Gloria, is that something you're going to touch upon? Gloria?
Gloria, you're on mute, I think.
Let's go with Gloria's on mute. Well, I'll jump in here, my 2 cents. After a lengthy pursuit daily, we finally got a key to our building. I just gave it to Nikki, and Gloria has it. I toured it. I sent photocopies to all of the photographs of what's the inside of that office space. I know, Paul, you're interested in, have you been in there? Have you seen?
Yes, I was able to walk through once.
Okay.
Yes.
Based upon, you know, our understanding, you're interested in pursuing, you know, a possible lease of that space. You know, we want to do everything possible to make that a reality. I don't know what your needs are. You know, we don't need to get into them right now.
Yeah.
But is there anything you want us to know about a need or a timeline that you're hoping to envision, or what can we do to facilitate your desire of that space?
I think it would be very helpful over the summer to lock down use of several of those rooms for the fall. Would be ideal.
For you? Okay.
That's right, yes.
Okay.
Conference room, classroom, and isolation area for the instructors who get overtired from time to time.
Okay. Well, clearly we are going to have to, along with the airport manager, figure out how to do that based upon the layout of the walls and what exists and what does not. And Jeff, go ahead.
Just before we go too far down on floor plans and such.
Yeah, we don't need to do that.
We have other people in this room who are also interested in the space, and so I think that we need to get, you know, maybe have them each submit something to the airport manager about intended square footage, number of rooms, other amenities that require things like rough plumbing and electrical that could be possibly done most efficiently, knowing a plan ahead of time instead of just trying to do a clean slate.
Yes.
I understand we're not gonna build it out for them and make a restaurant and say, here's a restaurant, or we're not gonna go above what is the industry standard, but why do something just to do it and then have to change it either on our dime or their dime?
Right.
You know? So I think we need to gather some information from prospective tenants that's a little more concrete than us just saying, we know we have interest, where is this City of Beverly?
Right. As a commissioner.
We have interest this summer for the fall. We have interest, one entity wants to take a third of it and the other is willing to take the remaining 2/3, like we need to get on this. And I'm not speaking for them obviously, but you know, there's a potential there to lease a good amount of that space.
Agreed. And the fact that we have two interested parties, you know, is a unique situation, I think, for us. So we're going to have to figure out how to move forward on this, and maybe, you know, with the, because like any lease, we always had to go through the city purchasing agent,
Sure.
Dave Gelano. I mean, it's a whole process involved, let alone trying to figure out the footprint of the available space. And how you
I just don't want to get
so
focused on completing it that we lose the opportunity to get helpful feedback along the way.
Oh, absolutely. I don't, clearly nothing's going to happen for several months. And there's probably a lot of work to be done by several groups, you know, between now and then.
Okay.
And we are separate entities, but we work very closely together. And so we could probably come up with something in a way that, addresses everybody.
Well, that's
I think that would go a long way, having just
Oh,
any
yeah.
kind of proposed, you know, business plan or expansion plan in your case where you're already established here.
Yeah.
So I think we're, you know, based upon, at least we've got the space, we've got a key, we can go in there anytime, and we'll move forward over the coming weeks, and hopefully make something happen by, as you said, fall.
Brilliant.
Okay? Anybody else got anything on that topic? No, we'll move on to the next issue. Review and comment on proposed edits to the Beverly Regional Airport's rules and regulations. I do have an update on that. Some email traffic with the city solicitors, Beth, help me here. Well, no, not your name, I'm sorry. But, it's not a completely finished
I was gonna say, that was
product.
That was my concern.
It is not a finished product. We are soliciting, we're getting some feedback, some additional feedback regarding FAA regulations that are within that 30 or 40 page document. So we're going, my thought was, and I agreed with both the solicitors, that we're not gonna make a vote to accept it. And even though there's been a lot of work by the city solicitor's office regarding the sexual harassment and other elements within it, we're now waiting for the second batch of information on the FAA side of it. And even then, it has to go up to the state level and maybe even the FAA it's for approval, so this is an ongoing process. So we're going to wait until we get the final document before the city solicitor's office gives us a recap of the entire package, and then a vote will occur from the commission. Go ahead, Commissioner Henry.
Thank you. In the interim, if we have comments, to the city solicitor's
Direct
office.
them, you can direct them to me, and
Okay.
I will,
Yep,
yep.
no, I reviewed the document, had nothing major, but did have a few questions.
No,
I just
absolutely.
didn't know if it was tonight or what, but I'll send you
You
those.
can send them to me.
Thank you. Well, since I have the floor, I would also ask, do those have to be advertised? Like, what is the, just adoption, no need for any, we can do that at any meeting in theory, like?
Once you have a final product,
Just saying, if tonight we wanted to randomly change our rules and regulations, are we procedurally, provided it's a duly held notice meeting, we can amend our rules and regulations at any time, or do we have to advertise a change or anything, like just?
so you could vote on it as a commission if it's properly noticed.
Right, okay.
But then any change has to be approved at the state level and also has to be published as if we were changing a city ordinance,
Yeah.
which requires some notification in a newspaper.
Okay, that's what I just
So-
didn't know.
So
that side.
even if you voted, there's still more steps after that before it would go into effect.
Yep, okay, just wanted to understand the process,
Yep.
sorry, thank you.
Okay. Last item on the agenda is commissioner comments. Commissioner Breen.
I just wanted to ask Gloria, the status on the part-time maintenance position that's been vacated for a bit. I know I had an exchange with Pauline Teixeira from the city, but just wanted to see if there's any update on that.
Gloria? I see Sean's still on there.
Yeah.
As far as I know, there has been applications submitted to Pauline Textera, but as Gloria was merging back into her position, I'm not sure.
So
Any
they-
interviews have been set up, but there are quite a few applicants in Pauline Textera.
Thank you.
Who beat down there? Okay, at the bottom.
So, yeah.
That's something we can follow up on, even within
Yes,
your.
yes.
Oh, Matt, go ahead.
Yeah, so I just want to clarify on this, the proposed rules change. Are we saying that we're going to be sort of communicating via email on suggestions or questions?
I had a few questions for the city solicitor's office on an element of the change.
On the quorum.
Mr. Chairman, may I speak?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Assistant City Solicitor Beth
Hi.
Old Mixon.
Just with respect to that, I probably should clarify. If you have any comments or questions, you may direct them to me. I would recommend that you just direct them to me instead of the entire commission, because then you end up in a quorum discussion over email, which is a violation of the open meeting law. So
I have 2 questions or comments, so I'll just send them to you.
you can send them right to me. Yep.
Okay.
And then if it's just a matter of, I can give you a response, or it might be something that has to come back to the commission for a full
Could-
discussion.
Yeah, right.
And there's only so much I can.
One of them I'm pretty sure you could, the other is more technical.
Okay. Yeah. So we'll just deal with them as they come in.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
Commissioner comments? I'm gonna give you 30 seconds, Joe, just, that topic is not going away. Building 45.
Oh.
It's gonna be on my headstone. That building,
We're getting close,
well, we're getting close, Either if it's a vote, yes,
Yeah, I had a question on the building 45 space. Can we have one person take all the space and then sublease it to the other entity? Is that an option?
See why it wouldn't be.
go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I didn't want to get too into the weeds on this myself, but I think that's an excellent question, but I think, because again, traditionally in this conversation, we've discussed this in context to an RFP proposal, to a whatever, so I don't want to presuppose that we're gonna have all this flexibility when this, I think we're gonna be told we're gonna have to do this through an RFP process,
So why don't we start the RFP process, like have Gloria start it now, with with the full set of space that's there? And put the RFP out for what we subdividing it, and doing combinations, put it out there and see what happens.
That's an interesting suggestion. My take is, you know, we've got finished office space right now. Somebody could move, you know, a laptop in there tomorrow if, you know, if we have to go through the city. The other two sections of that building, you know, raccoons are running through it every night, okay? So I don't want to mix apples and rotten oranges. You know, I can see it would make life easier for us to some degree, but there's nothing that's going to happen, you know, in the two unfinished sections of that building before the other space, the finished space, could be occupied and being leased. So it might just be, I guess, easier, this is my perspective, to just work on trying to get somebody into that office space, get the monthly revenue going. And, you know, but we can, maybe that's something we can ask the city, the purchasing agent. You could do both simultaneously, I guess, but I wouldn't want to potentially hold up two potential tenants who are sitting here looking at us tonight based upon what may or may not happen with those two rat-infested parts of the building the city's neglected for 6 years. Anyway, that's my thought, Peter. Any additional comments? But it's a good idea, though.
I just want to see things moving forward. I just don't want it to be another year before we get somebody in there.
Well, and I think to the action item, if we can get Gloria to kind of move on this and figure out what we can do, if that's an RFP for the entire building or for what's occupiable right now. I think to Paul's bigger point, if we take this that we have some portion of this building that's occupiable space immediately, that kind of forces us to have the conversation with the city about the failure of performance. Because, right, we have to, and so I think it moves the conversation forward, not only in the short term, but it gets us kind of broaching this conversation.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big question. What do we, as the commission, with the airport manager, try to do with that building?
Well, so,
you know, and it's not for a topic of conversation at this meeting right now. I'm just going to say that.
That's fair.
And I don't want to. But go ahead, Jeff.
I just want to qualify something I said earlier. When I was talking about getting a feel for what might go in there, I was talking about the unoccupied portion. I do not want that. I don't want to wait for that when we have leasable space there that could be used in its, you know, as it exists now.
You may have a developer that wants to outfit it, and we can deal with the other component to this.
Yeah, and that's a strategy conversation, and I don't know where that occurs, maybe within the airport manager's office, you know, one or two individuals in a subcommittee, not a quorum thing. But I mean,
Gloria did the RFP for the non-aeronautical lot. She knows how to do these things.
Yeah,
we should get one going for this. I agree with Peter, whether it's part or all of the building.
yes, and there's nothing to say that, you know, hypothetically, you make a short-term lease for, let's say, 12 to 18 months kind of thing, while we try to figure out the bigger picture of what the rest of the building could eventually be. And who knows, maybe the first leases expire and you put out an RFP for an entire.
Yeah, the bottom line is there is no lease as it sits right now.
I know.
There's nothing. So write an RFP, let them take as little or as much as they want and go from there. But there's nothing that's keeping us from giving it somebody to do improvements. So I think you're right, the base is to get that process started. And if it's an RFP from the airport manager, I mean, I'll have a vote to start that right now, you know?
Well,
I know, we're not delegating work, but in an official capacity, but
Okay.
we should get going.
You can definitely make a motion, I ask for.
but I mean, you know,
Draft RFP for building 45. And
Fine.
I don't want to
Yes, you do.
open up the books on what happened March 22nd of 2021, when the mayor was shocked that, what do you mean, there's an RFP in the office? And she goes, yeah, it's been there for a year.
We were all there. Maybe that'll stir the
Yeah.
pot on the one that's still sitting on somebody's desk.
Okay, no, any more commissioner comments at this point? Does anybody want to have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
So moved.
Okay,
Okay, that was motion by Slidkey, seconded by Gentili. Roll call vote, please.
Yes, Mr. Green.
Yes.
Mr. Turner.
Yes.
Mr. Gentile.
Yes.
Mr. Henry.
Yes.
Mr. Mosher.
Yes.
And Mr. Schwartz.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you.
The meeting is adjourned. Thank you.